Alright, take fucking two. I filmed this once, but I realized that my mic was in the up position, so it didn't really record the audio. So I'm sitting here for 30 minutes talking about jack and shit because you can't hear me. Trying this again. So last night, I watched the Dark Side of the Ring Chris Benoit two-part episode. And my DVR recorded both parts as one 2-hour episode, so I watched both parts. I didn't get the 1 week break that everybody else got, so but still, like at like the halfway point, I had to pause it and collect myself because this is a hard watch. It's harder to watch than Bruiser Brody. And Bruiser Brody, I didn't really know much about it. I knew what happened. I knew Tony Atlas never testified. That was about it. Now I know why he didn't in the whole story. I've even become a fan of Bruiser Brody. That was way before my time as a wrestling fan and before I was even born. But yeah, I'm a fan now. And this one was way harder because I remember Eddie, who they talk about a lot. I remember Benoit, who I wasn't really. I'll say this now. All right, I'll say this right now. Before I get into all this shit, I was never really a big Benoit fan, and no, it's not because of what happened. Even before then, he didn't interest me. Okay, I recognized that he put on good matches. He was good at what he did in the ring, but promo wise, and remember I didn't like his theme song either. And back then, if I didn't like your theme song, you had to work to get me to care about you, you know? Which is weird because I kind of like this theme song now. I don't seek out this theme song, but I've heard it a few times since. I don't hate it like I used to, which is interesting. Like Triple H is my time theme. I used to hate the shit out of that theme, and I don't now. Weird. Anyway, so yeah, so this opens with Chris Jericho saying, if you think he's saying, this opens with Chris Jericho saying, if you're one of those people who's sitting there thinking, oh no, it's about to glorify a killer, change the channel, because that's not what's about to happen. And he set the whole tone for what's about to happen in this two-part episode, because they most certainly were not glorifying Chris Benoit. They told his story. They talked about the aftermath and the media portrayal of it, and they gave their insider thoughts on it because these are people that knew him, loved him, and all that. That's what it is. Nobody's glorifying anybody here. All right. Now that's out of the way. Part one is about Benoit's career from when he started as a teenager to from when he started watching wrestling as a teenager to when he first met Eddie in Japan when he was Black Tiger Mask, yeah, to their eventual friendship. And once they started talking about Eddie, this became, at least not part one, it became not about Chris Benoit, but about Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero, which made this extra hard because I actually did like Eddie. Okay, I love Los Guerreros and I love those filthy animals, man. Filthy, filthy, nasty. That's the way we like it. They were awesome. Uh, yeah, I love Latino heat, man. Benoit not so much. He really didn't do it for me. So when they got to talking about Eddie, it was like they're going to talk about his death, aren't they? And they do. And when they get to it, it's hard. This whole documentary is hard to watch. This was hard because I like hearing Chavo talk about that and Eddie dying in his arms. A number of people will lose it about this documentary. Chavo loses it. Benoit's son loses it. Nancy Benoit's sister, she loses it. Yeah, when Benoit's son loses it, Chavo's like, it's alright, brother. That's why we're here. Let it out. And then you see a nice reunion towards the end. Benoit's holding, Chavo's holding Benoit's son Chavo steps away, and here's Nancy's sister, and they hadn't seen each other since before this shit happened. And Jericho organized all this, and it was a beautiful reunion backstage at AEW All In. I know it's an AEW show based on how Jericho was dressed, but I found out it was at All In, so that was pretty cool. Because it's damn sure it wouldn't have been at a WWE event, which they get into. Yeah, part one's nothing new if you're a fan. Even a casual fan, you know the Benoit story, you know what happened, and chances are you've probably seen a few of his matches. That's what part one is. And really, the meat of it for me in part one was the Eddie stuff, their friendship. I didn't know how close they actually were. They said they were like brothers, man. Like brothers. And when Eddie died, Benoit just, he just let out this great wail in the hotel when he found out. And he never really recovered from that. And then, other shit too. Yeah. Part two, I, look, I had to take a break after the 1 hour mark, which is when I guess part one ended. I paused it and I put on something else to collect myself. Uh, and then I came back to it later, picked up where I left off in part two. Damn. Okay. Because part one ended with what happened and the police showing up. Part two, you start with the first-hand account of the sheriff that actually was there doing the wellness, the welfare check with him and the neighbor who was all like happy and all that. They're like, hey, can you take care of these dogs? We can go check on these people. She's like, oh yeah, I mean these dogs are cool. And she goes in the house and she runs out. Daniel's dead. And then that's when it changed from a welfare check to something else entirely. And he goes into that and what he talks about. My goodness, man. And they saw crime scene photos, not of Benoit and Nancy, and no, but of the house, of how things looked, how they were. The computer, which was when they talked about the computer, man, wow, you know, like I thought I knew what happened because I remember this. First, let's go back to Eddie real quick. I remember when Eddie died. I was in high school, and my youngest brother was just being born, and that's his favorite wrestler now. So yeah, I was in high school. This was an algebra class of all places. People were like, Eddie Guerrero died. Eddie Guerrero, like what? People were like, but he did. And it's just wrestling. They want us to watch it again. And the teacher, she was cool. She indulged us for a little bit. But it was like, all right, we gotta get back to these problems. And I checked it out on my own time. And no, Eddie's dead. As Batista so eloquently put it, like 10 or so years ago in a Hill promo, whatever. Like, yeah, Eddie, Eddie Guerrero died. Wow. And seeing Vicky and Chavo trying so hard not to, well, like just lose it, like talking about it. Chavo would never would lose it talking about it. You know, you can't blame him for that. Yeah. But yeah, Chris Benoit. I remember when he died too. My mother was on a laptop like this. See my laptop there, and she was on the news site. She's always on the news site. Still is. Uh, and she just started reading out loud. Wrestler Chris Benoit dead. I'm like, wait, what? What happened? Like, that's literally it. So with the webpage, that was literally it. With a picture of Benoit in his wrestling tights. Like, yeah, Chris Benoit's dead. Like, okay. So I remember like flipping the channels. It coming across Monday Night Raw, and it was a tribute show. And I started watching it, seeing all these people I haven't seen in a while, like the Big Show and all these people. And I was getting back into it because I hadn't watched in a while, at least not Raw. I hadn't watched Raw in a while. I was still in and out of SmackDown at that time. But yeah, it's my first Raw in a long time watching. And I was getting into it, and my brother and my mother, she just abruptly changes the channel. I'm like, we're not going to finish watching the tribute show, and see, without even looking up, looking at computers like this, she just goes, no. Usually, she'll say something like, it's my fucking house, or something like that. But she just was like, no. Because as the tribute show was going on, that's when the details came out. And so WWE did not look good with all these people talking about how much they loved him and basically glorifying him. But at the same time, we're finding out that he killed his wife and child before killing himself. But yeah, and I thought I knew the story. Okay, I didn't know like he broke Nancy's back with his knee and duct taped her, like duct taped her to something. Then he shoved his knee in her back and broke it before he like strangled her. And then put a Bible next to her. And then he like drugged his kid with his 7-year-old son Daniel with uh, Xanax before smothering him, putting a Bible by him. Why was a knife there? I don't know. There's a knife right by his bed in the crime scene photo that they show. Uh, and then he did 2 internet searches. One was about resurrection, and then one is why I see people are pissed off. Like, I get it. And the second search was for the most painless way possible to break your own neck. Like, you just did all this brutal stuff and you wanted to kill yourself the least painful way. What the fuck? What even is that? Like, actually, people calling him a coward and all that. Like, that's a dick move. That's a coward move. It's not even a dick move. It's just a coward move. Okay. Like, no. Like, I didn't know all that. So I get why people are angry. While Paul Heyman checked that one fan a few years ago when he was talking somewhere and he mentioned Chris Benoit, and that fan was like, my boy. Paul Heyman, he just stopped at the track. That's your boy? Fuck you. And he put over Benoit's in-ring performances a little bit, but then went back to Benoit as a person, and it was like, fuck Benoit. Nancy and Daniel did not have to die. You know, I'm never one of those people who are like, if somebody wants to commit suicide, then that's their decision. No, that's not me. If I know somebody's going to want to take their life, I'll do everything in my power to help them not do that. Help them see that life is worth living. That's just who I am. Okay? That's just me. But Paul Heyman saying what he said, I don't disagree. Like, they did not have to suffer. We know Benoit suffered. They didn't have to. Like, they were innocent. Daniel was only 7. 7. You know? And, like, yeah. I see how people are angry. One of my cousins is a wrestling fan. And we used to go back and forth about, like, Benoit, and people, he'd go, Doug, I used to go, like, I don't like Chris Benoit. Like, Doug, you don't like Chris Benoit? Nah, man. You see his matches? He's a good matches. Yeah, he has good matches, but he's boring as hell, dude. Like, what? Nah, dude, he's awesome. And then what happened, and my cousin's like, if we're playing an old wrestling game, he's like, I don't want to pick him. I don't want to, you know. He's like, I don't want to pick him. If we're talking about wrestlers, I don't want to talk about him. I don't want to, like, fuck him and all that. And I ain't mad at him. You know, he was heartbroken after that. Like, he was nothing to do with Benoit anymore. And I get that, you know. That's why WWE did what they did. I mean, I've done it for the best reasons, but that's why they did what they did. And I, for the most part, agree. Yeah, don't mention his name. Don't play his theme music. Don't recycle his theme music. Like, don't, don't give him any kind of, this might sound harsh, but any kind of recognition, as it were. Like, just don't, because it's, and the way I'm looking at it is, it's difficult for the people, for the fans. Because I mentioned earlier, we go back and play older games. I see Benoit, I'm like, oh shit. You know, if I'm playing GMO and SmackDown and Raw, I take him out because I'm not even trying to fuck with that. You know, And if I'm playing even the older game, like those old PS1 games, like WCW Nitro and WCW Thunder, where they would the wrestlers would cut a promo before you picked them, telling you to pick them. Benoit yeah, doesn't look too well with the power of hindsight. Okay, it's like you come across it, it's like nope, hell no, nope. And that's how it is. And I agree with WE just not even mentioning it. Like, say for like what, like 4 words in the WE handbook, they'll talk about something Triple H something, and they're like, and Chris Benoit too. That was literally it. It was at the bottom of the damn page. That was it. That's what's left of it. That's his legacy now. That's because what he did. Okay, like yeah, Benoit has his fans. That's fine. That's fine. But people were like, "Oh, Benoit's legacy should be remembered" and all that. It's like, well, it is through you, through few people that can actually stand to watch a Benoit match, that could actually stand to play as him in the older games and all that. That's his legacy. And those 4 words in the handbook, that's it. That's all he's gonna get. People are like, he should be in the Hall of Fame. No, because the second they announce it, they could announce it tonight on Friday Night SmackDown. Chris Benoit to the Hall of Fame, and I guarantee you, everyone will be talking about, it, especially in this day and age, is Nancy and Daniel. Like that's it. And they talked about that in this documentary. If Benoit, like, if they were to announce Benoit in the Hall of Fame, that's exactly what would happen. That's why it's not going to happen. But then they talked about Nancy in the Hall of Fame, which was interesting because I was actually a fan of Nancy, as a woman. I've seen her stuff from back in the day, and I remember from WCW. No, I didn't like when she got paired up with Benoit. Like, oh, because I wasn't a Benoit fan. Yeah, I like when he showed up on Raw for the first time. That was kind of cool. Him and Dean Malenko, who's also in this, and Eddie Guerrero just showed up, just looking like badasses. That was cool. Aside from that, hmm, you know, and no, I don't actively go look at Chris Benoit matches, but if he has a match or something I'm watching, like not too long ago, I was watching Royal Rumble 2001, and Benoit had a match, and then when they announced it, I'm like, oh shit. And the match was good. It was him and Chris Jericho. Good match, but every one of those chair shots he took, unprotected to the head. I'm like, is that one of the ones that contributed to what he did? And those nasty bumps he would take, and that finish, which should be banned. I'm like, because Harley Race invented the diving headbutt. The diving headbutt. And it was like, don't do it. You won't see old age. Don't do it. And then Dynamite Kid, he started doing it. He was like, don't do it. It'll fuck you up. He told Benoit, don't do it. It will fuck you up. Let me double check here, real quick. 1 second, 1 second. Yeah, the rain. I definitely fucking feel the rain. Okay, Dynamite. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. Damn, on his birthday? Yeah, Dynamite Kid used the move. He told Benoit, don't do it. It'll fuck you up. And Benoit used the move, and he lost his mind. And I had to double check this. None of those men are alive today. Not one. Dynamite Kid died 2 years ago on his birthday, which was also one of my brother's birthday. Like on his 60th birthday, it looks like he died. I know he had a bunch of health problems. He did that move. Like, he warned Benoit. Benoit did it anyway. And Benoit, they talked about how much he really loved wrestling. They said pretty early on that his great love was wrestling, then his family, and his friends in that order. They said it jokingly at first, but then when they get to what happened, like after he did what he did, he still thought about going to wrestling to CM Punk at Monday Night Raw or whatever. Like, how the fuck? Like, Jericho was like, how? How? I was asked the same question. How? You know, and like they play like they didn't just show crime scene photos. They played like phone calls that were made between Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho. Benoit's like, "Hey man, where you at, man? Like, you supposed to be here." He's like, "Oh yeah, the family's sick. They got food poisoning." And by this time, like Benoit had already killed them. He didn't kill himself till like 3 days later. You could hear in his voice something was up. Like those calls are not easy to listen to. He's like, Jericho's like, "Hey man, are you all right?" He's like, and then Benoit's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. They have food poisoning, so I'm dealing with that." Like, all right, so I will come get you tomorrow. It's like, yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. And it was so disturbing, those phone calls. And he sent weird identical text messages to Jericho and I think Dean Malenko from both his phone and Nancy's phone. I just I see why people get pissed off when you mention the name Benoit. I don't, because I never really liked Benoit to begin with. Just what he did was fucked up. You know, a damn shame, a tragedy. I'm not like angry about it. I mean, I was pissed off. I never talked about what he did to Nancy and Daniel. Yeah, but I like playing. I'm not saying fuck you if you like Benoit. Like no, like if you don't like Benoit. That's your choice. But yeah, and that's how dedicated to wrestling he was. Like they talked about one time he had a match with Jericho, and and it wasn't even a televised match. It was a house show basically, and he messed up a move, a kick, didn't quite reach Jericho or whatever. Usually, what you do in that situation is you go, I fucked up, and you move on. Benoit started doing like squats or whatever. He did like 500 squats. Jericho's like, "What are you doing? You in trouble?" He's like, Jericho's like, "What are you doing?" Benoit's like, "We're doing 500 squats." Jericho's like, "What are you in trouble?" So he's like, "No, I messed up, so I gotta discipline myself." That's how dedicated he was. You know, when you hear that he still is thinking about wrestling after he killed his family, like, wouldn't that have been worse if he killed his family and then turned around and wouldn't have wrestled? Oh my goodness. Like he almost ended wrestling. That probably would have ended wrestling. Like they said, if Benoit knew he was going to be the one to kill Nancy after he was the one that saved her from Kevin Sullivan, who by the way I was waiting for him to show up, but he didn't. But they said they reached out and he said he never put his hands on Nancy. Okay, but yeah, but like they said, if Benoit knew that he was going to be the one to take her life and her son's life after saving Nancy from Kevin Sullivan, that would have just broke his heart. I'm like, yeah. And they said if he knew that he'd be the one that would almost, they said if he knew that he would be the one who would almost single-handedly end wrestling, that would mess him up too. Like, yeah, yeah. Because it did. It almost ended wrestling. They talked about that too. The media, because this was all over the place. I remember seeing interviews like, why are they talking to Brother Hitman Hart? He has been with them how long? Forgetting the fact that they were both in WCW, and that if you watch Malcolm in the Middle, even after this happened, the intro, right at the end, you see a clip of Brother Hitman Hart versus Chris Benoit. You see Bret Hart locking in his sharpshooter on Benoit. That's what you see in that opening. Every episode, even afterwards. So I'm like, oh yeah, that was a thing. And I'm seeing everybody's talking about it back then. I remember that. In the media, who was already kind of harsh towards wrestling, going back decades. I remember in the '90s, every single media outlet wanted to expose wrestling. Like okay, and this was just fuel to the fire for them. You know, like they wouldn't let the family agree. They were all over the family. And speaking of family, Nancy's sister was in this documentary, and she said that she hadn't seen her nephew, the one that survived. I can't remember his name, uh, because he wasn't there. That's why he survived. She hadn't seen her one nephew since this shit happened 13 years ago, because Somebody told her he didn't want to see her because of what happened. And then she found out somebody told him that she didn't want to see him because of what happened. And none of that was true. And you get a nice reunion between the two. And I knew he was going to break down. I was like, because they were talking to him and they're getting close to what happened in the aftermath. I knew he was going to. I was like, oh, shit. This is not an easy watch, y'all. It's not. Harder watching Brody. Way harder. I saw the Macho Man episode, the Will episode. I love the show. This was the hardest one to watch. And when he finally broke down, it was like a build up to it. Like Chavo was like, "Sorry, brother, that's why we're here. Let it all out." And then he steps away, right? And you see Nancy's sister, you know, Benoit's son's aunt, walk up behind him and hug him, and he looks at her and he says something like, I forget what he said, and that was like a reunion. And then the next scene, you see that it was Jericho who orchestrated the whole reunion at AEW. All Out. I know it was an AEW show, but somebody was wearing. I know it's All Out, so that's cool. Yeah, so that and they're back to you know being aunt and nephew. And that relationship, they go to wrestling shows. I believe he's trying to be a wrestler, and he's gonna be a WWE. You know, like they talked about that, how the family was treated afterwards. They completely just pretended they didn't exist, even to the family, which I don't agree with. Pretending Benoit didn't exist. Okay, fine, yeah. Don't mention him. Don't play his theme music. Don't recycle his theme music. You know, those four words in the handbook. That's it. No Hall of Fame. None of that. Okay. Oh yeah. I was talking about like how WWE pretends he didn't exist, starting literally right after that tribute episode, which I agree with to an extent. But if somebody wants to go and make a Chris Benoit wrestler in their video game, that's their money that they spent. They can make who they want. I've seen Hitler created wrestlers, fucking Klansmen created wrestlers, Bin Laden created wrestlers, Alonzo Saldivar created wrestlers, and most of them are worse than Benoit. But they didn't get banned from like online for making Benoit. You know, I gotta try to sneak around and spell it Chris Benoit with a WAH or put in the fucking what was his name? The Rabid Wolverine. Like they gotta find ways around it because they don't want to get banned. Like that's a little over the line. It's their money. It's their $60. If it's this most recent one, I cross my fingers. You only spend $60 on that shit. Okay, like that's their money. You can make who you want. Just don't expect them to put him officially in any more video games. And you're gonna have him. But don't treat his family like they're the problem. His remaining son, Nancy's sister. Don't treat them like that. They said like JR was the only WWE guy, the only person to show up at the funeral of Nancy and Daniel. And he was not welcome. Like, Nancy's sister yelled at him, cussed him out, was like, don't show up at the wake because she called it a work. So it's like, I know a work when I see one, and that was a work. That was bullshit. I'm like, damn, you know? And JR was in this documentary apologizing profusely for how they handled it in the whole tribute show. Yeah, they said it happened, but like, he apologized so much. I thought he was going to break down. I'm like, JR, it's been 13 years. You fucked up, okay? The best you could have done was what? Address the audience about what happened and stop it from being a tribute show. And then deal with the aftermath. That's it. You fucked up, man. Just deal with that and move on. You know, he's just kept apologizing for it like it was single handedly on him. You know, I mean, he was the WWE representative at the funeral, but still, apparently, like only a few people were at Benoit's funeral. Even Y2J, he didn't go to it. Now he said that was his friend. Even in this documentary, he called him his friend, but he also said like he tricked us all. And again, he was asking how, and I was asking how, you know. And Benoit's son said the only people who reached out to him after what happened were Y2J and Dean Malenko. That's it. And he said, fuck WWE. So, yeah. If he does wrestle, we really won't be there. Should they treat the family like that? Absolutely not. No, no. You know, and rightfully so. Nancy's sister is still pretty pissed off at what happened. I can't blame her for that. But she says she wants to forgive him one day. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. So like, yeah, I know Benoit has his fans, and that's fine. know, but they're like, oh, his legacy should be you know talked about like everybody else says. It should be held. Like no, no, no. Like he should be in the Hall of Fame. No, they announced that it will end wrestling. No, like I've already talked about that. Yeah, like I went back and watched. I watched a few reviews of this episode in particular. And I found one by a Chris Benoit fan. Even wearing the Benoit and Benoit We Trust shirt. I'm like, damn, you really are a fan wearing that shirt. And even he was like, no, Benoit should not be in the Hall of Fame. And he started talking about some football players who are in the Hall of Fame and they did some shit. I don't know about them, but I know like Pete Rose will likely never go to the Baseball Hall of Fame because he was a gambler and then apparently he's a dick. From what I know, I don't follow baseball, but I know that much. But he's in the WWE Hall of Fame. And I go further, Babe Ruth's in the Hall of Fame, isn't he? And he also gambled on games. I know Pete Rose was a dick. How big a dick is he though? Like, damn. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like the WWE Hall of Fame, you can go, oh, but Superfly Jimmy Snooker's in there. I was like, he killed his girlfriend. It's like there are people in there, like in the Baseball Hall of Fame, that should not be in there. But the WWE Hall of Fame is a little bit different because those are personalities in there, not the wrestlers themselves. Every fan knows to distinguish the wrestler from the personality. Like Undertaker's my favorite of all time, and I know Mark Calloway is actually closer to the biker taker than any of the other takers. I know they're doing a storyline now with all that, okay, which is weird as hell, but yeah, like I know to distinguish the person from the character, okay. Like one of the hard ones to do that with is Hogan. He's in the Hall of Fame after they took him out, put him back in, took him out, put him back in. He's in there, and he's got to be in there twice as Hogan, not Terry Bollea. That one's a bit harder because Hogan, like Terry Bollea, lives as Hogan, so that line is, they both said some pretty racist, messed up shit. But Hogan's in the Hall of Fame. Okay, the Warrior's in there. That's a whole other. He's got the damn Warrior Award, which is a. See what I mean? Not everyone is deserving of it. Yeah, Benoit's different. Like that's his actual name. Like all you gotta do is say that name, and it's like you slap somebody's mother or something. Like it's not gonna be good if WWE announces Benoit's in the Hall of Fame as his character or himself, or I'm just remembering that bit. That was Chris Benoit's real name. Pretty sure it was. Yeah, Chris Benoit is his real name. So like, and I know I didn't like his character or my opinion lack thereof when he was wrestling. But Chris Benoit, the person, seemed like a person, not just whoever this was that did this terrible thing. But they announced Chris Benoit in the Hall of Fame. That would be the end of all of it. They can't even say his name, let alone put him in the Hall of Fame. Not like these other people, these other personalities. Who, as I said, some of which don't belong in the Hall of Fame. It's not just the Wrestling Hall of Fame, as I mentioned. Even like they talked about Nancy going to the Hall of Fame, which that would be great. She's definitely totally a Hall of Famer. Like I was a fan of hers before Benoit. Before she was with Benoit, she was with Kevin Sullivan, Woman, and all that. I watched her stuff. I heard Jim Cornette talk about it on his podcast. Nancy was so fucking awesome. She did so much for women in wrestling. Okay, and she was never a wrestler, but she was just a bigger personality as everyone else. They sort of picks up her and Miss Elizabeth, and that's where I was trying so hard not to like just burst into tears, man, because that's my era, WCW. Okay, in the late '90s when they were on there, like that's my era. There's two women who need to be in the Hall of Fame who aren't over some bullshit. Miss Elizabeth, she OD'd. That's fucked up. She's still Hall of Fame worthy. Like, come on. And Nancy, well, we know what happened there. That's very fucked up. She's Hall of Fame. She's Hall of Fame worthy, but that would be a bit more challenging because of her last name. Except if she ever does go to Hall of Fame, it'll be as woman, which makes sense. You know, Chris Benoit, it was resounding no. Like everybody was like no, no Chris Benoit Hall of Fame. Like I said earlier, Chris Benoit fans, once I reviewed it, were like no, no Chris Benoit Hall of Fame. So aside from that one troll fucking with Paul Heyman, like no, like people get it. Like those drunk fans at the first NXT takeover in New York who were chanting for Chris Benoit, and Triple H notably got like very upset. Was like that's not funny, but then he kept on with the show. Like no, he has his fans. Fine, that's his legacy. And those four words in the handbook. That's it. Because he buried his legacy when he did what he did. That's the perfect word to use because it means so many things right now. He buried his legacy, which is the one thing like he didn't want.